Today on the Oracle Scroll, we are joined by Todd Olson, who is going to discuss with us the subject of meditation. It's something we all do or should be doing, and he's going to help us to understand how we get to that point and why we should be doing it, what we have to gain. So please join us as we discuss meditation with Todd Olson. Welcome to the Oracle Scroll. My name is Kevin Walder, and I am your host, and I invite you to join my guests and myself as we discuss all things metaphysical. Okay, today we have with us Todd Olson for his first visit with the Oracle Scroll. So welcome, Todd.
Hello, thank you.
And Todd is known throughout our small community as, well, let's see, he's quite a cook, and he's a baker, and he's quite a crafter. He's always got something new to show you. And he's worked in the spiritual community as a reader and as a clear channel. So we have there's things in common that we can talk about for the Oracle Scroll. So I thought that today might be an interesting time to get a little bit of extra insight into the practice of meditation. Meditation is something I talk about a lot when I'm doing consultations and readings. And so I thought perhaps getting another viewpoint of what meditation is, and I'll fill you in on my angle a little later on. But I wanted to present that question and ask Todd if he had anything he could share with us about, well, what meditation is and how one might get started, and what kind of atmosphere, what kind of inspiration, what things are necessary to get started on a successful meditation. So Todd, I'm going to toss the ball over to you and let you talk a little bit about your experience with meditation.
Well, most of my experience with meditation has been through Tibetan Buddhism, but there's also simplified meditations, there's walking meditations, there's visualization meditations. So depending on what you currently need, at the time that you're doing it, whether it's for a spiritual, religious, or just a way of calming yourself down during a frenetic day, a crazy, hectic day. It can be as simple as a breathing meditation to as complex as a guided meditation in a group setting.
Oh, very good. So mentally, I mean, that seems to be the idea behind meditation, is to quiet the mind. What's your secret? How do you do that?
Primarily in what I do personally, it is a self-guided meditation of breathing and energy work.
Okay.
So
it's a focus kind of thing where you focus on your breathing and create the positive atmosphere.
Correct. The breathing helps to relax the body and also to focus the mind. So extraneous thoughts and things that keep moving through your head all the time can quiet down a little bit. And then I usually focus on energy work within my own body of clearing what I feel are blocks in my energy field, protecting and energizing it so that I'm more focused on me in a physical and mental sense, and which usually helps with the emotional. So,
okay. Now I hadn't thought of that. The fact that you just mentioned that it's important to redirect your focus back to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought of that as being an important key part of meditation, because it is really a very personal practice.
Yes, it can be.
Yeah, I obviously you can you you can invite as many as you want to participate with you.
Right.
But the bigger the crowd, sometimes the more difficult it is, I think.
Yeah, it can be. In a group meditation context, I guess, for lack of a better word, you have people shifting, moving. Your eyes are closed, so you're not really sure what's going on around you. And that can become a distraction for many people.
Right, right. So well, okay. Meditation, we kind of look at meditation as a cure-all. I mean, basically, it's the thing we recommend for most every situation in someone's life, is to meditate on it.
Correct.
So what, I don't know, what kind of experiences have you had? Have you had any personal experiences that would be an inspiration for using meditation to correct things in one's life?
Um, Mostly on being able to focus. I many times working in office environments, I've used a 5-minute breathing and visualization meditation to center myself, collect myself, so I'm more effective at my job. There's also in regards to meditation and just using it as an everyday tool. You can do a walking meditation where you mentally are saying either a prayer, a mantra, or something, and you're walking in a cyclical manner, just like Tibetan Buddhism. They walk around a stupa, which is filled with holy objects, and do prayers on their prayer beads while they're doing mantras. So it's not only is it a mental exercise, spiritual exercise, it's also a physical exercise.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that helps people because some people are just not programmed to sit still.
Right, right. In fact, I think that probably, you just said it, is one of the most difficult parts of meditation is the idea of quiet mind.
Right.
It's very difficult to quiet your mind, as anyone who's ever tried it will know and it can attest. Um,
Mhm.
so, what's your favorite method? How do you go about doing that?
For me, it's a Bon meditation, but Bon is the um, original spiritual practice of the Tibetan people before Tibetan Buddhism was introduced.
Okay.
Um, and I use that. What it does is you're balancing the 5 energies of Tibetan Bon tradition, which is the same that has been passed into the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. You balance your energy so your body and your mind and your spiritual and energetic bodies are all focused on the same thing.
Hmm.
Um, it can be for some people it's a very relaxing type of meditation. For me, it's one that can be done with eyes open. You do not have to actually close your eyes to do it if you're really good at visualization. So I can do it while I'm driving even if I need to.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, it's and that involves also a breathing exercise that you're going to be doing continuously while you're doing it because you're actually visualizing things coming into you and going out of you at the same time. So it's
Mhm.
cyclical.
Okay. So it's a flow.
Hmm.
Okay. And one thing I do want to make very clear, when Todd mentions being able to do this as he's driving, this is from someone with years of experience.
Yeah.
Please don't try that when you're starting out, because you really don't need anyone in
Yeah.
a trance as they're going down I-5.
And
So,
again, it is with my eyes open that I do this. I'm not closing
correct.
my eyes to do that meditation. So
Okay.
I'm able to see and still drive and do what I need to do.
Okay. So, all right. So now you mentioned the bond meditation. Now I've seen your presentation a couple of different times where you
Right.
presented to a group.
Hmm.
And now that seems to be based on color.
Yes, there's color that represents each of the energy fields that the Bon tradition has. They're slightly different from Eastern thought per se. For example, the heart is the heart, or the, what is it? Let me see here. I have to remember the imagery. um, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit are
Hmm.
slightly different colors in other traditions. Say the Native American tradition, as opposed to Eastern and Far Eastern um, beliefs on those energies and how they are represented. They're also represented by specific sacred geometry symbols.
Hmm. Okay.
So there's also a variation in that because of the symbolism that they use.
Okay.
Um,
But it all comes back to elemental, uh, I guess, elemental. You're elevating the elements to
yeah.
take their part in the.
Or well, actually balancing, because usually when you're stressed or you're upset, one of the energy elements in the Bon tradition is out of balance with the others. And
Okay.
so the idea of balancing that allows you to come center back into yourself and focus again.
Okay. Well, in my own experience, I've been trained in hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and I have a very simplistic explanation for the difference between hypnosis and meditation. And this is how I put it, and it is, again, it's a very simple uh, explanation for a complex situation. But I always say that meditation is quieting the mind, allowing the body to follow, where hypnosis is quieting the body to allow the mind to follow. And since the body is tangible, it's a solid in front of us, we can kind of regulate that just a little bit easier than trying to tackle that quiet mind state. So in my experience, it's been easier to quiet the body and then allow the mind to follow, so that you can still accomplish the same work, and you're still in that same state when you get to a meditative state. It's still the same state that you're in, whether you arrive there from hypnosis or from meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you see the two difference, or is there a difference in your estimation?
Depending on the type of meditation, it would be very similar to what you just described. There are other meditation techniques that I've learned over the years that are very similar um, to the hypnosis way of doing it in your explanation, such as the Bon meditation, where it is actually relaxing the body while keeping the mind occupied with the work visualization work.
Hmm?
So it's kind of similar, but a traditional Buddhist meditation is literally quieting the mind to become what they describe as a calm lake or pool with no ripples.
Okay.
That is one of the most difficult meditations to achieve for most lay people, because our brains are constantly bringing up other stuff that needs to be done. You should be doing this. We should be focusing on that. Whereas the Bon meditation accounts for that, and as something comes up, you can, okay, is that a positive or a negative for balancing that energy, and you can breathe it out or breathe it in depending on what it is.
Okay.
So
Okay. Now, in years past, I know you shared with me a meditation that you use for, well, just kind of leveling the playing field. Let's say if something seems to be way out of balance and causing a problem, then you've created a meditation that requires a visualization of you basically shrinking that down to where it's not even a problem anymore. It's completely irrelevant. Can you describe that process for us?
well, that type of a meditation comes from, um, oh God, what do they call that? I've forgotten. It is a empowerment meditation that's usually done with people who are working on what we would term high magic work, where they are trying to work with energies around them. So part of that meditation is bringing energy into yourself and becoming bigger than you physically are, and then you visualize the object of the issue in your hand, whether you show the world, person, an object, like say your car's having issues, and you visualize your car in your palm of your hand and it being fixed and being drivable and working properly for you. That's the type of work you can do when you're in that state. Once you've achieved and practiced that, the basic form of that meditation, then you can take and put that into practice of putting something in your hand and physically working on it in an energetic way.
Okay, that's a good way to say it. So yeah, meditation is one of those things that, like I said, we talk about a lot, and yet we really don't explain it very often. So there are times when I think people walk away wondering, what am I supposed to do now? And I mean, there are resources available. There are lots of books that explain it. I think you can even download audio files that will help you get there as well. And I know hypnosis, there definitely are audio files that you can download to help you achieve that state.
Yeah.
So one of the funny things about meditation is one of the things I've repeated many times, and it's a meme that I've picked up on Facebook. Basically, it says that every day you should meditate for 20 minutes, unless, of course, you're way too busy, and then you should meditate for 1 hour.
Yeah.
So that's a humorous way of looking at it, but it is a very real point that if you think you are too busy to take care of yourself, then you really need to be doing it a lot more than you even planned.
Correct.
Now, how does meditation factor into a self-care kind of regimen? Is that something you would have to practice on a daily basis, or do you want to do it more often than that?
Well, depending on the type of meditation you're planning to do. Such as an example, the Bond meditation is a great thing to do first thing in the morning. I usually will do it before I even get out of bed, because it only takes 5 to 10 minutes. It's not a real long thing to do. So while you're waking up, you can begin the breathing exercise and start the visualization and get yourself going that way. And then you can also do the same thing of using that same meditation in the evening before you go to bed to relax yourself and get yourself ready for sleep. Now, in Buddhism, whether it is Zen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, or Indian Buddhism, daily practice of meditation, whenever you have a free moment, is usually the norm. So you will see people carrying their prayer beads with them, and doing their prayers and meditating whenever they have a moment, whether they're working in a shop, working in an office, doing a pure spiritual practice in a temple. You will see those people doing a meditation on their, I've actually watched videos of parks, even in the United States, where people will just go for their lunch. They'll have a light lunch, and then they will meditate for 20 minutes before returning to work. And that sometimes I look at meditation as like everyone calls power naps.
Right.
Meditation for me is that way. It allows me to re-energize myself to continue my job.
Right. Okay. Well, and that's another part of meditation that people often misunderstand, is it does not take a long time. It's not something you need to spend hours preparing for and hours more performing. It's something you can slip into in seconds. You can actually be in that meditative state immediately. And if you, like you said earlier, spend 5-10 minutes there, that's better than nothing. So even though, yes, it would be nice to have a 20-minute meditation, if you can't squeeze it in, do your 5-minute, or, take a walk around the block and do your 5-minute. Something that would just help you to recenter yourself. That's the biggest thing, is we get so bombarded with all these outside influences that just throw us completely out of balance. And meditation is the way we get it back, the way we pull back our strength and really center ourselves and ground ourselves so that we can, face the next onslaught.
Yes. And in a spiritual practice where you are training to be priest, priestess, a monk, or a lama, your ideal is to achieve a meditation practice where you are continuously meditating, doing prayers and mantras while still doing your daily chores and activities without interruption.
Right.
I call it the true multitasking of the spiritual world.
And it is definitely, if you can still carry on performing your task without losing that connection.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, gosh, we've covered quite a little ground in just a few minutes. Kind of given some background and some information that can be very useful. So, is there anything you'd need to add? Something you want to make sure everybody knows?
There are a lot of people out there teaching a lot of different types of meditation, and do not be put off when you go to try like a free meditation at a community center and it doesn't quite fit with how you want or think of meditation to work for you. There's always somebody else doing a slightly different variation or a slightly different interpretation that might actually suit you better. An example, not meditation-wise, but in terms of doing a spiritual type practice, my brother, who's never done anything remotely Far Eastern or Middle Eastern or spiritual in nature, enjoys going and doing yoga after his wife dragged him kicking and screaming to a whole season of community hatha yoga in their hometown. He now does it on his own. She no longer attends, but he still continues to attend and do the yoga, and he enjoys it. For him, it's a physical yoga, but it actually allows him to reflect on his day and what he's doing. So in a way, it is his own variation of a spiritual practice for him.
Very good.
So,
actually, that is interesting because sometimes the people who you think probably don't ever need it are the ones who actually end up using it more.
Yes, and enjoying it.
And enjoying it. Yes, definitely. And that's another key part is if it isn't enjoyable, if it's not relaxing, if it's not actually helping, then find a new way. Find a new teacher or find a new book, find a new way, concentrate on it yourself and decide how you want it to fit. Because as you said, it's very personal. It's something that changes with each individual.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you, Todd, for joining us today on the Oracle Scroll, and I appreciate your candor and helping us to understand that sometimes mystifying meditation experience.
Thank you.
And thank you for your for being the first. Well, you're not the first. You're the second guest on the Oracle Scroll. I appreciate your input, and thank you so much for coming along with us today.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
For the second segment of this special episode of the Oracle Scroll, I thought we would talk a little bit about the court cards, or the royal families in the deck. As part of the minor arcana in the tarot deck, there are 4 court cards for each suit. In our modern poker deck, we have the 3 face cards, the King, Queen, and Jack. But in the tarot, we have 4 face cards, the King, Queen, the Knight, and the Page. Whenever I'm reading for a client or teaching a tarot class, the court cards come up as the most misunderstood, the most difficult to assign in any given reading. Traditionally, these cards have been thought to represent the people involved in a situation. And many times it's very difficult for the client or the student to determine who in their life is playing any particular role. As we age, we may no longer have someone who plays the role of fatherly or motherly influence, or we may no longer have someone who plays the role of heroic protector. Thus, assigning a definition and an identity to these cards can become problematic. What if we understand the cards in a little bit of a new way? What if we understand that they no longer represent people outside of ourselves who are bringing a certain energy to a situation, but rather they represent parts of ourselves, roles that we ourselves play in addressing a particular situation? I have come to appreciate these cards in a new way by shifting my focus from outside to inside. Instead of looking for someone else to represent a particular energetic input, looking to myself and how I respond or react will often lead me to a better understanding. Each of the suits corresponds to particular elements and life energies. For example, swords represent the element of air, which is conscious thought, and so that would relate directly to the head. The suit of wands represents the element of fire, which is passion, motivation, so that would directly relate to the gut, fire in the belly. The suit of cups represents the element of water, which is emotion, and thus would relate directly to the heart. And finally, the suit of coins represents the element of earth, which involves everything physical and would directly relate to the hands. Each of the 4 cards of the royal family have their own attributes as well. The page is representative of childlike wonder, living in the moment, eagerness, enthusiasm, playfulness, idealism. The knight represents movement, battle readiness, protection, heroic behavior, risk-taking. The queen represents intuitive feminine power, motherly protection, quiet determination. Manipulation? Yeah, the queens are quite capable. And the king represents assertive, aggressive behavior, masculine power, fatherly guidance, balancing it out just a little, decisiveness, and enforcer of rules. By addressing these cards in this manner, we begin to understand their message in a much more personal way. Instead of concentrating our efforts on finding those outside of ourselves who may be exerting some influence on the situation, it's actually freeing to understand that we ourselves may be exerting that influence, playing that role of the energy of that card. The mystery of the court cards is one that is simply solved when we begin to see that they are simply mirrors of the many aspects of our own personality, our own soul. There is no mystery at all, because no one knows us as well as we know ourselves. And that is the story of the court cards in the deck. And hopefully this will be helpful as you use them in reading for yourself. It gives a little different slant on their meaning and helps to bring it home. And this brings us to the conclusion of this special episode. The Oracle Scroll is now available on many of your favorite platforms. And we ask that you please subscribe. Subscribe today. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and Facebook. Did you know that you can earn some attractive bonuses for yourself while helping the Oracle Scroll? Visit our Patreon page to find out how. That is Patreon, patreon.com/Kevin Walder, and that'll give you all the details. Please send any comments, suggestions, requests, anything at all to the Oracle's Scroll at gmail.com, and we will undertake to answer your questions as best we can. Be sure to share this experience with your friends, relatives, anyone at all that you think might enjoy what we do here at the Oracle Scroll. Pass the word, please. As always, links to any of the contact information and options are listed in the episode notes that accompany this audio presentation. We thank you again for joining us for this special episode, and please watch for our next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Find us on Facebook at the Oracle Scroll. If you wish to send comments, suggestions, or requests, please address them to the Oracle Scroll at gmail.com.